Hi, my name is Earl and this is my testimony.
Hello, welcome back to another GAP testimony at Chula Vista Seventh-day Adventist Church. Today we have an exciting testimony. I'll never forget when I first heard Ron Bruns tell the story of meeting this young man on the freeway, and what has transpired in the meantime has just been wonderful. This is Earl Kapule, and he's here to tell us about his experience of coming to know the Lord.
Thank you for having me here today. It's a blessing to be here, and I'd like to start off by saying my name is Earl Kapule. I'm from Hawaii, the island of Hawaii, a very beautiful place. And I grew up there for 24 years of my life. And it was a blessing. It was beautiful. And there's also another side to Hawaii. Many people want to live there. They want to see it. And it's not always beautiful trees and beaches and friendly people, There's another side to be told, and I'd like to share where I grew up and what I grew up around. We lived in a neighborhood. We weren't really rich, we didn't have much. I have two brothers and a sister. So in my house there was a lot of love and care for us, but at the same time there was a lot of fighting and arguments and crying. And there were times that our house, we didn't have water and electric, and my parents weren't people to ask everyone for help, and so we just tried to make it on our own. We'd have generators going, and we would get water from my grandma's house on the next street over, and we would just try to make it. We had our share of problems, but we got through it. My father was an iron worker, a very hard-working man, and my mother had a few jobs in different restaurants. So they worked very hard to always provide for us, even though we weren't rich people or we didn't always have everything. And so it was pretty hard growing up as a youngest child. I looked up to my brothers and sisters and tried to be like them or follow them. And one of my brothers would always get into fights and do the wrong thing, and he really influenced me in that way, to where when I was in elementary, I would get into fights and I wouldn't listen and stuff like that. But as I grew older, that brother went to prison and he wasn't around as much, and I got closer to my sister. I became more quiet, more humble, and so I think it was a good choice to be influenced by my sister, because the path that my brother chose and my brother went down was a dangerous path, and I've seen a lot of my friends growing up head down that path, and there were gangs and shootings and a lot of other dangerous things that I could have been involved in. But I believe that God wanted me to go down another road. As I got older, I think it was about 12 years old, I had an accident. I was playing at a friend's house, and I fell down, and as I fell, I felt the side pain, and after a few hours, it's still hurting just as bad, maybe even worse. And they finally took me to the hospital. The doctors checked me out, and they found that I was bleeding internally. My kidney had been punctured from the fall, and at first they said we can wait a little while to see if it stops bleeding, because it wasn't a big puncture. So we waited a while and it didn't stop. So they took me into the operation room and opened me up, and from there my life changed even more. I was more on the safe side than doing the dangerous things that a lot of my friends would like to do. I was more cautious because of what I had gone through. So I continued life, and it came to high school when I could see a lot of the things that used to influence my brother when he was in high school, the gangs and the drugs and drinking and all those things in high school. So I would hang out with my friends, try to fit in, be part of the crew, but I could always see something would always tell me, don't go there or don't do this, because it's bad. And he saved me so many times.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes. And so after high school, I became, I started to drink and drive. And at the age of 21, a week after I turned 21, I got my first DUI. And I can remember that night like it was like last night. I remember my friend telling me, "Are you okay to drive?" And I told him, "Yeah, I got it." And I got into the car and I blacked out from there. The next thing I know, I see blue lights in my rearview mirror. And so I pull over and all of a sudden I feel sober, but yet I smell like alcohol. And the police takes me out. I do all the tests and I notice I'm maybe 20 to 40 feet away from my house. And at that time, I thought it was just luck, but I don't know what I was thinking at that time, because I could have killed somebody. I could have killed myself. For maybe about 20 miles, I was driving and not even knowing I was driving. So from there, I still drank because life in Hawaii wasn't fulfilling, and I started to ask questions. And the more I started to drink and try to drink my problems away, I couldn't find the answer of what true happiness is.
So you're looking for happiness.
I'm looking for happiness.
Okay.
Looking for freedom. And then I started to smoke marijuana, and just my whole life I never thought about it. I never wanted to try it, but it came to a point where nothing was making me happy and I needed a getaway, and I guess that's why I tried it. So I tried it for a year, and it came to a point where I wanted to leave Hawaii. And growing up, I told it, we would always talk about how we would never leave Hawaii, and the mainland is different from Hawaii, and we had our thoughts on the mainland. So I decided I'm going to try it, And when I first got here, it was big. It's a lot of things to do. I was excited to see where I was going to end up, and it was pretty hard. Work was still slow. Even though it was slow in Hawaii, it was still slow in San Diego. And so I continued to look for work. And for a while, all I did was watch TV and go to the gym. One day, I was driving home from the gym. I was on the freeway, going about 65 miles per hour. And all of a sudden, from the corner of my eye, I see a car coming into my lane. And not slowly, but it seemed as if that car's tire had blown out. So I swerved to the right, and the car still hit me. It hit me, and my car went to the right, and it hit the median. It's a curb, and my car went airborne, and it flipped and flipped and flipped. And when I stopped rolling, I was sideways, facing the opposite directions. I went through 3 lanes and landed in between 2 large trees in a ditch.
Between 2 large trees.
2 large trees.
Between them.
Between them.
You didn't hit them.
I did not hit them. The lady behind me was in the military. She ran over, opened the door, pulled me out, and I'm still in shock, thinking if this is a dream or what's going on, And I'm looking down, patting myself down, nothing, a little scratch on my knee. I'm still like, wow. And I look at the car, or it's a SUV, and it's totaled, it's wrecked. The car behind the lady was another man. He was a retired Marine and retired police officer for San Diego. Came up to me and said, he looked at me, he saw my tattoos, and he said, "You look like you're from Hawaii?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, I noticed your stickers on your island." He said, "Are you okay? That was a bad accident. I've been a police officer for 13 years, and I've never seen an accident like that and someone walk out like that." He said, "Angels were with you." And at that time, I didn't think of angels or God. I was just like, wow, I came out of it alive.
By the way, that was Ron Bruns.
Ron Bruns.
All right.
Who introduced me to this church. This is where my testimony truly starts, and how I found God and how I heard His call. So that day I went home, still in shock, telling my family about what happened and just thinking about it. And Ron and I switched information, and we became friends. And turns out he's also from Hawaii. He grew up in Hawaii and moved out to San Diego. So we became friends. I told him what I did. I told him I'm a carpenter. And he said, "Okay, I'll see if I can find you some work." And he found me some work from a man named David Zecca. And he owns his own company. So I worked for him. First day I worked for him, I worked with this other guy named Simeon Spruill, and who turned out he's from the Big Island of Hawaii. And I was like, wow, 2 people already, okay. And I just moved up to Hawaii, didn't know anybody, didn't have friends, already have 2 people I know from Hawaii. And so things are starting to get better since the accident. I have work now, and I met 2 new friends. So I continued to work for them. Me and Simeon became close friends as well. And he told me a little about God here and there as we worked, and I would ask him questions about God and his beliefs, and we would just share back and forth. And the more I learned from him, the more I knew I was going to have to make a decision soon. The more I could feel a change in me. I was a little scared. I was a little on the fence, because I knew I was going to have to change a lot in my life. I was still drinking. I was still smoking, and a lot of things weren't right in my life. And I was hearing these truths, and I know I couldn't keep this life and have that life at the same time. So while I was thinking about that, I got a call from a friend in Hawaii saying, "Did you hear about Kevin and Neil?" And I said, "No. These are my 2 good friends from high school. They're like brothers." And they said there was an explosion at their job site. And throughout that whole night, I kept getting calls, people asking what's going on, what happened, because they know that I was very, very close to those 2 guys. So the next day came, and we got the call, the confirmation saying that the last 2 bodies were found, and it was them. So I made arrangements right away to fly back home and to pay my respects, and to see the family, my friends, make sure everybody was okay. And so I went there, and it was a hard thing to do, and it's my first time losing friends, let alone 2 at the same time. So many of us had questions, like why them, why now? And they were so young, they were our age. And while I was there in Hawaii, more questions arose, about death, about God. When I came back from Hawaii, I realized that the decision must be now, Either I'm going to go this way, or I'm going to go with God. I'm going to stay with the things of the world or go with God. So I decided to follow God. Decided to tell the world of my testimony, to
Amen.
Give my life to Jesus. I believe that if we put God first in everything that we do, everything will be well. I think of Mark 10:27. With God, all things are possible. And I cling to that promise.
Amen.
And from there on, I prayed to God to change my life. I put all my trust in Him. And He changed me. He took away the drinking. He took away the smoking in an instant. And my friends and family, they were shocked, like, "Wow, who is this? And how did you do this?"
Yeah.
And I tell them I didn't do this. God did this.
Amen.
Just let Him do the change for you.
So you set out from Hawaii looking for a happier life, and you got in a car accident. And that was kind of the door that opened up God to your life, and you found happiness.
Yeah, I did.
Well, now tell us what's going on in your life right now. What is He calling you to do right now with the rest of your life?
Well, first of all, I know God is calling me to give my testimony to everyone I meet, to tell people how He's worked in my life, how He's changed my life.
Okay, good.
And another thing I know He's calling me to do is to preach His message to the world. I went to a camp called Army Bible Camp, where they teach you how to study the Bible and how to pray. And there was a school there promoting their program called Health. And it's up at Weimar, Northern California, and I'm going there next week to start my journey to be a health evangelist, so I can spread the gospel through the health message.
Every Christian has a story to tell, and we want to know, what's yours? You'll never know how your story of coming to Christ could help impact someone's life if you don't share it. Tell us your story via email, Facebook, Twitter, or even upload a video to YouTube and tell us about it. If you know a loved one that's going through some tough times and find a story on here that they can relate to, share it with them and see how God can use one person's testimony to help encourage and even change the life of another. This testimony was recorded at the Chula Vista Seventh-day Adventist Church in Chula Vista, California. If you're in our neighborhood and would like to pay us a visit, ask for prayer, or simply want to get more information about who we are and what we believe, visit our website at chulavistasda.org or call us at 619-422-0405. Gap Testimonies. God answers prayers, and you just saw some proof of that.